After CEO was forced to marry me, he missed his crush every day. But when I left, he begged me back. Imagine waking up one day to find yourself married to the most powerful man in the city. A man who doesn't love you, whose heart belongs to someone else. That's exactly what happened to me. This is a story about power, regret, and the kind of love that only blooms when it's almost too late. It's also about how people change when they think they've lost something forever. You might be wondering how I ended up here, tied to a man who couldn't even look at me without guilt clouding his eyes. Well, let me take you back to where it all began. The moment my life turned into something straight out of a soap opera. It started with a scandal, as these things often do. The CEO in question, Ethan Carter, was known for being ruthless in business and untouchable in his personal life. He had an empire built on precision and ambition. But behind closed doors, he was just another man, nursing a broken heart over a woman who'd walked away years ago. His name was everywhere. Newspapers, billboards, stock markets. But no one really knew him. Not like I did. And trust me, getting close to someone like Ethan wasn't easy, especially when our marriage wasn't born out of love, but necessity. The circumstances that led us to this forced union are complicated, messy even. Suffice to say, there were secrets involved. Secrets that could have destroyed everything Ethan worked so hard to build. I didn't want any part of it at first. Who would? But sometimes life gives you no choice. And before I knew it, I was standing beside him in front of a judge, exchanging vows that felt more like legal contracts than promises of forever. From the outside, we looked like the perfect couple, the self-made billionaire and the quiet girl from the wrong side of town. But inside, we were strangers, bound by obligation, not affection. Ethan never tried to hide the fact that he missed her. Her name rarely came up, but her shadow loomed large between us. Every time he stared off into space, or avoided my gaze during dinner, I could feel her presence hanging in the air, unspoken, yet undeniable. It hurt. Of course it did. How could it not? But I told myself it didn't matter, because this wasn't real. Our marriage was a facade, nothing more. Still, there were nights when I lay awake wondering if anything would ever change, if he'd ever see me, instead of the ghost of what he'd lost. Despite everything, I tried to make the best of it. I threw myself into work, helped manage some of the charitable projects under his company's umbrella, and kept a low profile. The media loved speculating about us, painting me as either a gold-digging opportunist or a saintly figure trying to save a troubled soul. Neither version was true. But I learned quickly that perception matters more than reality when you're married to someone like Ethan. People watched us closely, dissecting every interaction, every public appearance. It was exhausting, but I got used to it, or at least I pretended to. What I didn't expect was how much Ethan would begin to rely on me. At first, it was small things. Asking for my opinion on a decision, seeking advice about a tricky negotiation. Then, slowly, he started opening up. Not about her, never about her, but about other parts of his life. He talked about growing up poor, about the sacrifices he made to get where he is today. For the first time, I saw glimpses of the man behind the suit, the man who wasn't invincible after all. It was confusing, to say the least. Here was someone who resented me for reasons beyond my control. Yet he kept letting me in, bit by bit. But no matter how much progress we seemed to make, there was always that invisible wall between us. Every time I thought we were moving forward, something would remind him of her. A song, a place, a random memory, and he'd retreat back into himself. I hated it, but I understood it too. Love like that doesn't just disappear overnight. No matter how much time passes, or how many miles separate you from the person you once cared about. Still, watching him pine for someone who clearly didn't feel the same way broke something in me. I wasn't jealous. I was sad, for both of us. Then came the day I decided I couldn't do it anymore. Living in limbo, waiting for scraps of attention from a man who couldn't give me his whole heart. It wasn't fair to either of us, so I left. Just packed my bags and walked away, leaving behind the life I'd reluctantly grown accustomed to. I didn't tell him where I was going or why. I simply disappeared, hoping that maybe, just maybe, he'd realize what he was losing. And oh, did he realize. The calls started almost immediately, dozens of them, then texts, emails, even messages sent through mutual friends. "Come back," he pleaded. "We can fix this." At first, I ignored them, convinced it was just panic setting in, fear of losing face in front of the world. But the longer I stayed away, the more desperate he became. He showed up at places he thought I might be, left voicemails begging for forgiveness, even hired private investigators to track me down. It was overwhelming, but also satisfying in a way. Finally, he was seeing me, not as a placeholder or a burden, but as someone worth fighting for. But here's the thing. Wanting someone back isn't the same as loving them. And while Ethan's actions proved he cared, I couldn't help but wonder if it was too little, too late. Could I trust him to truly let go of the past and embrace a future with me? Or was I setting myself up for more heartache down the line? These questions swirled in my mind as I debated whether to answer his pleas or keep running, because deep down, I knew that whatever choice I made next would define not just my life, but his too. So now here we are, at a crossroads neither of us saw coming. Ethan stands on one side, willing to do whatever it takes to win me back. And me, I'm caught between the desire to believe in second chances and the fear of repeating old mistakes. What happens next is anyone's guess. But one thing is certain, this story is far from over. Will Ethan learn to love again? Or will the weight of his past crush any hope of a future together? Stay tuned to find out, because the answers might surprise you. To understand how we got to this point, you need to know a little more about Ethan and me. Our lives couldn't have been more different before fate, or rather necessity, threw us together. Ethan was the golden boy of the business world, a man who clawed his way out of poverty with nothing but sheer willpower and an unrelenting drive for success. He built his empire brick by brick, earning respect and enemies along the way. People admired him, feared him even, but few truly knew him. Beneath that polished exterior was someone haunted by regrets, someone still chasing the love he let slip through his fingers years ago. As for me, I was just trying to survive. My name is Clara, and my life before Ethan was quiet, almost invisible. I worked 2 jobs to make ends meet, dreaming of something better, but never expecting it to actually happen. Then came the scandal that changed everything. A corporate expose threatening to bring down Ethan's company unless he cleaned up his image fast. That's where I came in. Or at least, that's what they told me when they approached me with their proposal. Marry Ethan, play the role of the devoted wife, and help him weather the storm. In return, my debts would disappear, and I'd walk away with enough money to start over. It sounded like a fair deal at the time, but I had no idea how deeply it would entangle me in his world. At first, our arrangement felt transactional, sterile even. We lived under the same roof, but rarely interacted beyond polite exchanges about schedules or appearances. The media ate it up, spinning tales of a whirlwind romance, while ignoring the emptiness behind our smiles. For Ethan, though, the act must have been excruciating. Every interview, every photo op reminded him of what he didn't have, the woman he once loved, the life he imagined before reality intervened. And while he never said her name aloud, I could see it written all over his face whenever we were forced to pretend we were happy. Her name was Sophia, and she was the one who got away from what little Ethan shared and the snippets I pieced together from tabloids. She was everything I wasn't. Bold, glamorous, untouchable. They dated briefly during college, but their paths diverged after graduation. She moved abroad to pursue her dreams, while he stayed behind to build his empire. Over the years, he tried reaching out, hoping to reconnect, but she always kept him at arm's length. By the time I entered his life, Sophia was long gone. Yet her absence lingered, like a ghost haunting every corner of his mansion. Living with Ethan taught me things about him that no one else saw. Behind closed doors, he wasn't the cold, calculating CEO everyone feared. He was human, flawed, vulnerable. There were moments when he let his guard down. Late-night conversations about his childhood. Rare bursts of laughter when something genuinely amused him. Those glimpses made me realize why so many people fell under his spell. But they also made my own position harder to bear, because the closer I got to him, the clearer it became that I was fighting a battle I could never win, no matter how much effort I put into being there for him. His heart remained tethered to someone else. The tension between us reached its peak during a charity gala hosted by his company. It was supposed to be a celebration of his philanthropic efforts, a chance to showcase the perfect couple to investors and donors. But as the evening wore on, I noticed the way Ethan's eyes followed another guest, a stunning brunette who bore a striking resemblance to Sophia. His jaw tightened, his posture stiffened, and suddenly I understood why. It wasn't just nostalgia, it was longing, raw and unfiltered. Watching him struggle to keep his composure broke something inside me. I realized then that staying with him meant accepting a lifetime of sharing him with a memory I could never compete with. That night marked a turning point. I began questioning whether I wanted to continue sacrificing pieces of myself for a man who couldn't give me his whole heart. The breaking point came weeks later. During a heated argument, Ethan accused me of not understanding him, of failing to grasp the weight of his responsibilities. What he didn't realize was that I understood too well. I understood that loving him meant living in the shadow of someone else's legacy. So, I made the hardest decision of my life. I left, not because I hated him, but because I loved myself enough to know I deserved better. But walking away wasn't easy. As the days turned into weeks, I found myself thinking about Ethan more than I cared to admit. Was he okay? Did he miss me? Or was he relieved to finally be free? These questions gnawed at me, especially when his messages started flooding in. Each one tugged at my resolve, forcing me to confront the truth. Leaving hadn't solved anything. If anything, it had only deepened the ache in my chest. Yet returning felt impossible. How could I trust that he wouldn't revert to his old ways, clinging to the past instead of embracing the present? Meanwhile, Ethan's desperation grew. He hired private investigators, reached out to mutual acquaintances, even showed up at places he thought I might visit. His actions spoke volumes, revealing a side of him I hadn't seen before: vulnerability. For the first time, he wasn't the untouchable CEO, but a man stripped bare by loss. It was both heartbreaking and infuriating. Part of me wanted to run back to him, to believe that maybe this time would be different. But another part, the wiser, more cautious part, warned me against rushing into something without guarantees. Just when I thought I'd made peace with my decision, a new complication arose. A journalist contacted me, claiming to have uncovered details about the scandal that brought Ethan and me together. According to her sources, there was more to the story than I'd been led to believe. The implications were staggering, raising questions about who I could really trust, including Ethan. Suddenly, everything I thought I knew was thrown into doubt. Was our marriage truly about saving his reputation? Or was there something darker at play? And if the truth came out, would it change how I felt about him? Or solidify my reasons for leaving? With each passing day, the stakes grew higher. Ethan's relentless pursuit of me hinted at a deeper transformation. But the unresolved issues between us loomed larger than ever. Could we move forward, or were we doomed to repeat the same mistakes? The answers eluded me, slipping further away with every twist and turn. All I knew for sure was that the choice ahead wouldn't just determine my future, it would define who I was as a person. And as the pressure mounted, I couldn't shake the feeling that the climax of this story was hurtling toward us faster than either of us could prepare for. The journalist's call forced me to confront everything I thought I knew about Ethan and myself. She sent over documents, emails, and recordings that painted a picture far more complex than the one I'd been living in. It turned out the scandal wasn't just about protecting Ethan's public image. It was tied to something deeper, something involving his past with Sophia. The truth hit me like a freight train. Sophia hadn't walked away from him willingly. All those years ago, someone powerful had manipulated her into leaving, threatening her career if she stayed. And now, that same person was trying to use our marriage as leverage against Ethan. When I finally confronted Ethan with what I'd learned, he didn't deny it. Instead, he sat across from me, looking defeated for the first time since I'd known him. "I wanted to tell you," he said, his voice barely above a whisper, "but I didn't know how." He explained that when we were thrust together, he saw an opportunity to shield both of us from the scandal, from the people who wanted to destroy him, and maybe even from ourselves. But somewhere along the way, he admitted, things had changed. "Clara," he said, meeting my eyes for the first time in months, "I don't want to lose you." For a moment, I let myself believe him. His words carried so much weight, so much raw emotion, that it felt impossible not to give in. But then, reality kicked in. Trust isn't something you can rebuild overnight, especially when it's been shattered by secrets and lies. I told him I needed time, not just to process everything, but to figure out whether forgiveness was even possible. He nodded, understanding, or at least pretending to, but I could see the fear in his eyes. Fear of losing me again, this time, for good. As days passed, I found myself torn between anger and compassion. On one hand, I resented Ethan for keeping such a huge part of his life hidden from me. On the other, I couldn't ignore the fact that he'd risked everything to protect me, even before I realized it. The journalist encouraged me to go public with the information, promising it would bring justice to those who deserved it. But going public meant exposing Ethan's vulnerabilities, tearing apart the fragile trust we were trying to rebuild. Could I really do that to him? Or was there another way? In the end, I decided to take a leap of faith. Not because I trusted Ethan completely, but because I trusted myself enough to navigate whatever came next. Together, we devised a plan to expose the people behind the manipulation without dragging Sophia or anyone else into the mess. It wasn't easy, and it required sacrifices neither of us anticipated. But slowly, painfully, we began unraveling the web of deceit that had bound us for so long. The turning point came during a press conference. Ethan called unexpectedly, standing in front of reporters, cameras flashing around him. He revealed the truth. Not just about the scandal, but about his feelings for me. Clara isn't just my wife, he said, his voice steady, despite the chaos surrounding him. She's the reason I'm still standing today. And if I've learned anything these past months, it's that love doesn't come from holding on to the past. It comes from letting go and choosing someone who sees you for who you are, flaws and all. His confession shocked everyone, including me. For weeks afterward, the media dissected every word, every glance, searching for cracks in our story. But this time, they found none. We faced the fallout together, side by side, proving to each other and to ourselves that we were stronger, united than apart. As the dust settled, I realized something important. Forgiveness isn't about forgetting. It's about moving forward. And sometimes, moving forward means giving someone a second chance, even when it scares you to death. Months later, as we stood on the balcony of his penthouse, watching the city lights twinkle below, I asked Ethan a question I'd been carrying for a while. Do you ever think about her? I meant Sophia, of course. Though I didn't say her name aloud, he hesitated, then shook his head. Not anymore, he said softly. Because she's part of my past. You're my future. It wasn't a perfect happily ever after. Life rarely is. But it was real, messy, and ours. Looking back, I understood that love isn't about finding someone flawless. It's about seeing their imperfections and choosing them anyway. Ethan and I weren't the same people we'd been when this journey began, and maybe that was the point. Sometimes it takes losing everything to discover what truly matters. And for us, it took walking away and coming back to find where we belonged.